Generation to Generation began by asking, what might future generations desire from us in relation to our innovations and inventions? Humans and technologies have always evolved together. So when it comes to artificial intelligence, the latest of our great technologies, we wanted to know, how else might we evolve? What might we inherit? How could we transform and change along with our technologies from generation to generation?
I think the assumption, or sort of the prevailing notion, is that poetry and technology are at odds with one another, right? Because we sort of presume that poetry is sort of the most human art. And, technology we often regard as being soulless and sterile and mechanical. And I've always sort of wanted to push back and challenge that notion a little bit, because to me, poetry really derives its power from pattern and structure and form and rules and the subversion of rules. So to me, I really think of poetry as being both a form of art in its own right and also a really powerful technology that has allowed us humans to express important things, to preserve precious information, and to transmit wisdom through space and time. One of my favorite lines of poetry that technology has written is the line, "Words can communicate beyond words." And I always loved that sentiment, because to me it really embodies and exemplifies what the power of generative language is, which is to take language beyond the edge of its limits and transform words into images and sounds and music and code, and really enrich the possibilities of human expression. I think, Generation to Generation, for me, is such a great title. I love playing with words. And the idea that a word like generation just has so many rich meanings when it comes to not just technology, but when it comes to culture and community.
There's generativity in generative AI and how they move forward and push forward. There's generations of technology and how there's a media feedback loop in many ways.
So we're really kind of looking at this longer spectrum of technology, looking at generations of technology and how each one builds upon the next.
On an intimate level, this exhibition asks us to look at our direct relationship to technology. How do we use ChatGPT in the day-to-day? What does it mean when we speak to Alexa or Siri? Can we be more creative? Can we amplify potential? Then, on a systemic level, how might we regulate artificial intelligence and other new forms of technology? Could we use, for example, AI to analyze creative outputs and see where we might give royalties to artists based on work that was derived from things they've done in the past? Could there be rules and regulations around bias and what is allowed and what must be prohibited? And then, on an inspirational level, I'm curious what people might imagine that I haven't thought of yet. Where else might the next generation, my students, my children, bring AI, artificial intelligence, new technologies? How can we both take accountability for and joy and wonder in what comes next?